Hi there, my name is Memo, this is my channel Houseplanty Goodness, and essentially it's a place where I like to geek out about my big passion, which you might be able to see behind me, around me and in front of me. It's tropical houseplants. So today I do actually want to talk about the plant that I've got in front of me. And this might not be something that you all recognize just by seeing it as it is. If I was to show you a picture of this plant in bloom, you probably would realize what it looks like, and hopefully I'll have an old picture from when this was in bloom and I'll put it over this plant and you should be able to then recognize what this plant is. This is the Stephanotis, and I think it's Stephanotis Floribunda, but I might be wrong about the Floribunda part. It is definitely a Stephanotis. And I've left some of the tendrils on here so you might be able to see how it grows. Because the one thing that most people don't realize about the Stephanotis is that it is very closely related to Hoyas. Now this might give you a bit of a hint, because I know this could be a bit of a challenging plant for some people to grow in their care. They either don't get it to ever rebloom or the plant struggles. I find with this plant, and the moment that I figured out and I found out from my research that it is closely related to Hoyas, I immediately started treating this like a Hoya basically. So at the moment this plant, and I'll show you it in all of its glory, this is the entirety of the plant. I've had this plant I think going on 3 years now, but this plant has been in a light air, it's been in the grower's media, then it's been in a light airy aroid soil mix, and since I have moved it into pond like all of my other Hoyas, and remember from all my other videos, my Hoyas, and actually most things that I've moved into pond seem to love it. Specifically Hoyas though do exceptionally well in it. This has been no different. Very, very similar. Unlike a Hoya though, I found at least with the peduncles, there's no real peduncle, it's kind of umbels of flowers that will emerge and they will bloom, and obviously everybody wants this plant in the house because it does smell very much like a jasmine. I think this is also called a Madagascar Jasmine. I might be wrong, but if not, I will put the common name somewhere up here as well. It does smell beautiful. Again, it's another one of those similar to Hoya that it smells more at night and in the morning than it does throughout the day. Very similar to Hoya in that respect as well. You'll see a lot of these similarities, and I think when I've told people who have struggled with this but do really well with their Hoyas, and I'm just like, you know, it's related to Hoyas, and that light bulb moment hits for everybody, and they were just like, oh, and I'm just like, yes, start treating this like a Hoya and you will see great success. And actually the majority of people that have started doing that, they're just like, oh, it's easy now, I know what I'm doing. And I'm just like, yes, treat it like a Hoya essentially, and you will get the same thing. And you can see that's why I left that little vining part of it, because it vines in the same way that a Hoya would do, maybe a bit more, because this one was actually attaching itself to a Hoya that I've got next to it. I think it's the Hoya pubicalyx that I've got next to this. But the other thing that I wanted to mention about this, especially at the time when I'm bringing this video out, which is close to the Christmas period, this is a plant that a lot of people might pick up in a plant store or a nursery, and it's usually in full bloom at Christmas time, and they were just like, great, and it's winter time and it can bring it in and it smells beautiful. Don't be misled with that. And also the reality, a lot of the times when you're buying it and it's like that in the winter, soon as you take it home, most of those blooms will drop almost within a day or two. The thing that I've discovered with this plant is the moment I started treating it like a Hoya, so it gets bright, bright light, it's up there in the windows, in the south-facing windows for me with the rest of my Hoyas, and it's getting bright, it's getting beat down all the time. You can see some bleaching on the leaves as well. Also knowing this, if you've got Stephanotis at home and you go and touch the leaves now and you see that it's a succulent leaf, very similar to a Hoya, again it will start making sense. This one doesn't need as much humidity as some Hoyas will do. So it's okay with regular household humidity. Water it the same way that you would a Hoya. So wait until it's dry and then flood it through, and then wait until it's dry again and then flood it through. And at least that's what I found. I think sometimes online you'll be like, oh, you need to water it when the soil is still moist. Nah, I've tried that before and I nearly lost this plant to root rot, so going in the opposite direction seemed to have had the best success for me. The thing I was going to say as well is the moment that I moved this into pon and I started treating this like a Hoya was the moment this year, and I'm really hoping that that's the picture that I found to put on here. Almost the entire front part of this plant was covered in blooms, and they all opened at the same time, which was annoying because they all dropped at the same time, but it was a spectacular show that this put on. The smell, this was in the kitchen, it's always been in my kitchen because pretty much every kitchen I've been in the last 3 houses has had really bright south-facing windows, same as this place as well, and it just smelled divine. It was just amazing. So yeah, treat this like a Hoya, bright light, really well draining soil. The roots are very similar to a Hoya as well, so they're quite small roots, so you don't need a huge pot. What else? Fertilize it the same way that I fertilize this the same way that I would fertilize most of my Hoyas actually, and I will fertilize it once every second or third watering, and that's it. Keep an eye out. The only pest that I've really found that is a challenge for this plant is mealybugs, so keep an eye for that and just kind of make sure that you're dealing with it, and it will just constantly keep growing. It's constantly vining around and trying to attach itself to absolutely everything. I don't know what I'm going to do. I keep pushing it down, so I've still got a bit of a trellis to go. If I had a bigger space and a bigger trellis, I would probably put this up against the wall and it would cover up the wall and it would be amazing. But the other thing that I will say about this, obviously, as I was mentioning before, you'll get it in winter and it's in bloom and you'll take it home and it will drop the blooms. The other thing to remember, and this is slightly sneaky, that the houseplant industry will do this and does it sometimes with other plants, and let's give them the benefit of the doubt that they're doing this with the best intentions. This plant does not bloom in winter, so you won't get it to rebloom again in the winter probably. Like you might still, there might be still left a bit of a push for it for that first winter when you get it home, but the reality is this will bloom around spring and summertime, as with most other plants, as with most Hoya as well. So just something to bear in mind, because I know that this is a plant that a lot of people try to get, and a lot of people who've not had a lot of house plants will try to get this plant and then they'll kick themselves because they're just like, oh, I couldn't keep it alive and I should have been able to keep it alive. I wouldn't say that this is necessarily an easy plant. It is a relatively easy and straightforward plant if you've got Hoyas and if you are quite confident in being able to grow your Hoyas and get them to bloom. Then you've got this one sorted as well, because essentially it's pretty much the same care. At least that's what I found in my situation, in my environment, but I'm almost 100% sure, if I remember correctly from my research, this is related to the Hoya, so that makes sense as well. But yeah, I think that's everything that I wanted to say about this plant. For me, this has been an easy plant, believe it or not. I know it's not always for everybody, but I think the moment that you kind of get that penny dropping, that treat this like a Hoya, that hopefully should make a bit more sense and you'll have that aha moment and going, oh yeah, obviously do this and do this and do this, and that's obviously what I was doing wrong, because I wasn't doing these things that I'm used to doing for my Hoyas. But yeah, hopefully that's been useful for some of you. And if you've got any questions or comments, I know a lot of you have tried growing this, are still growing this. If you're doing it differently than me, if you want to say that what I'm talking about is complete and utter rubbish, please drop it in the comments down below and let's have that conversation actually. But yeah, hopefully you've enjoyed. Hopefully I shall see you here soon, and I truly, truly hope that you have a great rest of your day. Thanks. Bye.